Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel on human design. I'm Pragya, and I know it's been quite some time since I shared something on this channel. I often go through these periods of deep meditation, one can say, of absorption, when sharing is not something that becomes a priority, but experiencing life and allowing it to develop into understanding becomes a priority. So I've just kind of been sitting back and absorbing and observing. And I finally today reached a point, actually, since a few days, where I was like, I cannot wait to share about this topic. And so here I am. In today's video, I wanted to talk about relationship compromises and how to navigate them, because I think it's such a fascinating topic. I mean, research shows that having the right relationships in your life increases your chances of surviving, and not just surviving, but experiencing well-being by a significant amount. And yet, I think when I look around myself, I don't really see relationships that are truly empowering, or relationships that truly feel like success, or that bring satisfaction or peace or surprise. And understanding the issues in depth is really something that can help us achieve more fulfilling relationships. And so, yeah, let's talk compromises. I don't think that I need to explain to anyone what a compromise really is, because every single one of us, regardless of whether we're talking about a relationship with a friend or a co-worker or a partner or a family member, basically any other human being, even animals, if you want to take it that far. But all of us have experienced this sense of being compromised in relationship with others. And what that essentially is a part of us being suppressed when we come in relationship with others. And human design actually makes this experience something that you can logically look at, that you can pinpoint and observe within your life. But before we get into that, I really wanted to talk a little bit about the purpose of a human life. In my opinion, and from everything that I have learned so far, our life is about our individual expression. Our life is about being able to give the gift of ourselves out to the world, and to be able to receive the gift of others in our experience together. Every single one here is an individual, differentiated expression of consciousness itself. And the reason that we are here is to not only express ourselves, but to develop and mature in our individual, differentiated, unique expression. That is why each one of us is here. Each one of us, whether we know it or not, cares deeply about being ourselves in the world. That is where our fulfillment comes from. I'm not saying that we're all very good at doing that. What I'm saying is that essentially that is our purpose. And the reason that I wanted to highlight this when talking about compromises in relationships is because oftentimes we find ourselves in connections with others that compromise the way that we are able to express ourselves. And sure, in connection with others, perhaps we are able to express parts of ourselves that we cannot otherwise on our own, So there's also that side of the coin. But there's also the very real possibility that a lot of who you are and a lot of what wants to come out in the world gets suppressed in connection with others. And because our fundamental fulfillment comes from our expression of ourselves, especially as nine-centered human beings, where all movement is towards the throat, not being able to express ourselves, not being able to be our unique selves, not being able to give the gift of ourselves to the world around us can be something that isn't the most pleasant in experience. This is also why Ra, when talking about compromises in connection charts, calls them relationship busters. You see, we connect with others in many different ways, and let me actually illustrate all of that using the charts that I have in front of me. So today, for the purpose of this video, I wanted to show you a few different examples of compromises and talk about what my personal experience of them has been. So I have 3 relationships that I have here, whose composite charts I have here, and I also have individual charts here to showcase the energetic dynamic of compromise in relationships. I have my chart that you've been looking at. I'm a 2-4 mental projector with a channel of acceptance, the design of an organizational being. I also have my mom's chart here, who I've been in relationship with all my life, and we have a few compromises here. I also have the chart of a friend here who I've been friends with decades, and we also have a compromise. And I have the chart of my partner here as well, and we have an incredible number of compromises. And yet, it seems that so far we have a wonderful, fulfilling relationship together. So we know that we connect with others energetically in many different ways. We may have electromagnetic connections with them, which is this sense of attraction to what they bring to the table in relationship to the gate that we have. For example, I have gate 5 in my design, and my mom has gate 15, and her gate 15 is attracted to my gate 5, and my gate 5 is attracted to her gate 15. And actually, I should say that there's attraction and repulsion here, and I'll make a whole separate video on the issues that arise out of electromagnetic connections. But this is one way of being in relationship with another being attracted to them, and also having the possibility there of being repulsed by them. We also have dominance channels, which are channels that one person has in relationship and the other person has no stakes in that expression because they don't have a hanging gate there. This causes a whole different kind of dynamic, which also I'll make another video on. But it is very true that we are attracted to and repulsed to people energetically, and that we can dominate them and we can be dominated by them in relationship. The third way of connecting with others is having companionship channels, which I don't have with anybody in my life. Actually, I used to with an ex-partner of mine, and that's when you share the exact same channel. And that is a third way of being in relationship with another human being. And the fourth one, which is actually the topic of discussion today, is compromises. It's when you have a hanging gate, but the other person that you're in relationship with has the entire channel. Or vice versa, you have the entire channel and the other person has the hanging gate. Like we can see in this connection chart of me and my mother, that I'm compromised by her channel of brain wave and wavelength, and she's compromised by my channel of acceptance. Now, when we can see ourselves in connection with others, we can very quickly see why at certain times in relationship with others, we feel restricted, we feel not seen or not heard or ignored, or at least parts of us that we consider important to our expression feel that way. And the reason why compromises can be extremely problematic, especially in relationships without awareness, is that this feeling of being compromised grows over time. And this feeling of something's not quite right in my expression with this person grows into being in relationship with this person isn't good for me or correct for me and that I should move on. And while that may be true, that it isn't correct for you to be compromised in the way that you're being compromised in relationship with a certain person, it is actually true and a very, I think, difficult to digest truth that compromise is a very real part of relating in the world. That no matter who you run into, it is very likely that you're either going to be compromised by them or they're going to be compromised by you, or you're going to dominate them or they're going to dominate you, or you're going to feel attracted to them or repulsed by them, or you're going to have companionship with them. Of course, depending on what the dynamics are, it can look very different. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that compromise is a very real part of relating. And experiencing compromise in relationship needn't necessarily mean that that relationship isn't good for your individual expression or that it's not contributing to development of your expression out in the world. Even though compromise is experientially very difficult, it can feel like neglect, it can feel like being ignored, it can feel like being unseen or unheard or ridiculed even though compromise can bring up such complex feelings, is actually a very unavoidable part of relating with the world, which is why it's so necessary to have more conversation around this topic so that we can all become more aware of how to navigate such situations. We can all attest to it does not feel good to be compromised energetically. And we have all experienced it, and we have all heard others in our lives complain about it to us, how they feel ignored by us or unseen by us or unheard by us or ridiculed by us, even when we didn't want them to feel that way, even when it wasn't our intention. And this is because we are all uniquely energetically designed, and we cannot help be ourselves. When I have a channel, which is my life force, it is my pathway to expressing my godliness out in the world. It is something that is fixed and reliable within me. It is something that is consistent within me. Even if I wanted to suppress my opinions, even if I wanted to suppress my mind and the way that I look at things logically, I wouldn't be able to do that. And my expression of my mind and my concepts has actually nothing to do with anyone that I am in relationship with. It is just me expressing myself out in the world. But when my mom, who has this hanging 62 in a defined throat, by the way, experiences my mind and my opinions and my facts and my details, she feels like the details that she brings to the table, the facts that she brings to the table are not considered. And it's true because I have the whole life force process going on within me. Even if I wanted to consider her details, I'm fixed in my details. I'm fixed in the way that I perceive things, in the details that I pick up, in the way that I process them, in the way that I form an opinion around them. So my mom feels compromised around me, and there is nothing that I can do that can take away from the feeling that she feels, even when I'm not trying to make her feel that way, that what she's saying is actually not logical. What she's saying is actually not good enough, which isn't true. Her details are very valid in her expression of her life and the way that she navigates her life. But in relationship to me, her throat is compromised by my logical channel. And funnily enough, my intuition and my judgment is also compromised in relationship with her. The depth of judgment, of logical solutions that I can present are limited around her because she has her own talent in the way that she deals with the larger world. She has her own way of coming up with solutions to different issues that she sees in the world around her. And it's not personal that she does, even though sometimes I can get extremely resentful around her, specifically because I also have another channel in the logic circuitry, and I'm really passionate about my logic in a lot of ways. And it can really feel like my logic is compromised around her, and I can't really fully express my depth of judgment to her in relationship with her. There are also times where I feel like my intuition, my intuitive hearing, what I hear in the now and what can be good for us is very much ignored by what her intuition says. And around her, I can feel unseen or unheard when it comes to my intuition. Similarly, with my reflector friend in our connection chart together, we can see that his facts and his details are compromised by my channel of acceptance. And I'm sure in our relationship together, sometimes he has felt like I don't appreciate what he's saying or I'm close to his facts. It's because I am close to his facts. I have my own facts. I have my own way of processing life and details and logically organizing them. It's not personal. It's not that I want him to feel that way or I feel that I am superior in a certain way. It's just that I am fixed and helpless in the way that I am energetically designed. And then when we look at the connection chart of me and my partner, and here we have a mother of compromises, and actually something that I have had to really, really look at in relationship with him, because as you can see, I have 4 places in which I am compromised by him. His channel of power compromises my 57 intuitive hearing. His channel of perfected form also compromises my intuition. His channel of struggle compromises my drive to struggle for purpose, and his channel of surrender compromises my ego. So in connection to him, I experience a lot of energetic compromise, whereas he experiences no energetic compromise. In other words, there's a lot of energetic space for him in relationship with me, but for me in relationship with him, I constantly come up against feeling like my intuition is not seen or heard, and what I would like to personally fight for, what's important to me, if his spleen says no and he doesn't have the energy for it and he doesn't think it's worthwhile for our community and tribe and family, then that is something that's not really going to get a chance to express itself. And you can imagine there have been times where I have felt extremely hurt because of this. And over a period of time, have had to really look at what was happening with a lot of awareness. You see, relationships will constantly bring you to experience yourself in completely different ways. Whether that's someone that's activating you in a way where you get to express a lot of yourself, or relationships in which you get to express certain parts of yourself a lot and others not so much. Relationships in which you become dominated by the life force of another person and learn through that process. What I'm trying to say is that the way that we relate to people is extremely diverse and complex. And actually, there is not one way of correctly relating with someone, or one kind of relationship being the ideal kind of relationship. The truth is that every single relationship that we have in our life actually adds to our development and our maturity and helps us to grow as individuals so that we can express ourselves better in the world. Even though compromise can be extremely hurtful, but if we are able to look at compromise and experience compromise from a place of objectivity, from a place of acceptance, then we can begin to really benefit from being in that relationship. And the truth is, not every single thing happens to us in our life so that we can be happy and joyous and completely expressed. Sometimes contrast is very necessary. Sometimes being compromised when it comes to certain parts of us by someone that has a very specific expression in that area can help shed light to the part of us that we have inside us and can help that part to grow in ways that we couldn't have imagined. I think what I'm trying to say is that compromise is inevitable. Compromise is also inevitably hurtful. And the only solution to this problem is awareness and learning to navigate our relationships in such a way that we don't take such experiences extremely personal. It's not personal that I'm a thinking being that expresses details and conceptualizes in a certain way. It's not personal that my partner is an integration being and deeply individual, and his well-being mostly resides in being selfish with his energy and putting it in what's good for his survival. It's not personal that my mom also has her own intuition and depth when it comes to collective solutions. It just is what it is. And there are plenty of other areas where I experience a deep sense of fulfillment in these relationships. So relationships are not that easy. Relationships are complex and they help us in our maturity in actually really, really complex ways. It is up to us and our awareness to navigate them in such a way that we can be impartial observers of them to the best of our abilities. The second very practical solution that Ra also talks about when it comes to compromises is wherever you're compromised, to treat it like it's a dominance channel, meaning that eventually over a period of time, as you begin to see things with more awareness, you can see where it is that your hanging gate is wanting to take over and wanting to take the lead, and to realize that it is in your highest fulfillment to drop it, because a channel is a channel and you cannot dominate it with a gate. It's mechanics. You cannot really dominate an intuitive and instinctive being with your gate of intuition. When someone is designed for survival and you have a certain expression in that place, it's better to step back and let the other person take the lead in that area and to learn from that experience and to watch it and to witness it. Having said this, I know that it's not the easiest experience and something that I'm also learning to navigate especially as a projector, when our relationships are founded on us being recognized by the other, that when a compromise exists in our relationship, sometimes it can feel like you're not really recognized and cause a lot of confusion and pain and resentment and bitterness. And while that may be true, while the amount of compromises that you experience or the kind of compromise that you experience, you realize it's not for you, that it's actually not bringing you that sense of sweetness or that sense of success. While that's a real possibility, it's also a real possibility that there is recognition and there is invitation and there is a place for you to be yourself in a certain way and express certain parts of yourself that bring a lot of success. But also you have this compromise that you have to learn to navigate and learn to accept and learn to take the back seat on and not take it personal. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say on compromises right now. This video is already way longer than I wanted it to be, but I hope that this added some value to your life and that it can help you look at your relationships in a whole different way and help you love yourself and love your partner or your coworker or your friend or anyone else you're in relationship with just a little bit better. Do leave your comments down below. I always love to hear them. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next one.